Hi, loves. Welcome to the Be With You show. This is your friend and your host, Sam. And today on the show, we have a surprise. We have a guest on the show who was a former medical practitioner in one of the most reputed hospitals in Mumbai, after which she had a career switch to being a holistic psychotherapist, energy healer, spiritual coach, Reiki master, and a tarot card reader. She deals with women having relationship issues like anxiety. She helps them navigate through their abandonment, wound, and shame. She helps them manifest a relationship based on love, respect, and trust. Welcome to the show, Dr. Sneha Lakshmanan. And I promise each one of you that this show is going to help your relationship in more than one ways.
Welcome to my show, which is Be With You. And here we talk about a lot of things from love to life to everything in between. So, I want to know that how was your journey from being a doctor to being a psychotherapist and then a holistic healing
Right.
person and Reiki master and your tarot card reader. So, tell me about your journey.
Okay. So I actually started my medical career journey in the year 2009. Up until 2016, I was doing my medical studies and internship. After that, we get our medical degree. After that, I spent a couple of years studying for postgraduate exams, for getting into some sort of specialty.
Yeah.
During that time, I faced a lot of emotional ups and downs, um, uh, especially with relationships. So I was going through a hard time at that point. So
So you must be at that point, you were 18 or 19, right?
when I
So,
started my medical
medical.
career, I was 18, yeah.
So this you are talking about is when you were 23, 24.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
like in 2016, 17,
Okay.
2017 actually.
Oh,
So at that point, I went through a very terrible heartbreak. So that sort of was the catalyst that put me into this energy healing and holistic healing field. It actually started with a tarot reading that I did with my current mentor.
okay.
So through that tarot reading, a lot of things started to make sense for me about my life. So it was like I found a missing piece. So through that reading, I found out that I'm meant for more things, like
Okay.
energy healing and tarot reading and things like that. That's my life purpose. So I found my life purpose through a tarot reading, and it felt right. Sometimes you're just doing things, but you don't feel like your heart is in
Yeah.
that space, right? With this, it was entirely different. So that is how I started my energy healing career. So at that point, I was still in the medical field. In the next year, in the following year, in 2018, I worked as a resident medical officer in in a very big hospital. So during that time, I received a lot of clarity about my life purpose and my passions. I wasn't very interested in just prescribing medications
Okay.
to people. I found that a very superficial thing, because
So what
there's
was
more.
what exactly was the reason that you felt that the medical thing is somewhere not yet that advanced and you need to do more for yourself and also for your patients or people you help. So what is it that
Okay,
actually turned your opinion?
right. So there was one thing that I was uh, good at, rather interested in, not good at,
Okay.
but interested in, while seeing patients in the hospital. I would spend at least half an hour or 45 minutes with one patient in their room, in the inpatient department,
Okay.
And being a resident medical officer on call, you can't spend that
Yes.
much time with the patient, but I
You have
actually
to see
love
a lot
doing
of
that.
patience in that amount of
Yeah,
time. Definitely.
exactly. So, if I am not able to provide that kind of space and time to a patient for their healing,
Yeah.
I don't see how they're going to recover. I mean, it's one thing to just focus on their symptoms and their superficial problems, but to actually look deeper within and understand what life challenges they're experiencing, what their environment is like, what are the emotional turmoils that they're experiencing. That is what drove me to pursuing counseling and psychotherapy because I wanted to start helping people heal on an emotional level
From the
because
root cause. Yeah.
our emotions are directly connected to our the physical
Physical.
symptoms that we experience. So
Yes.
if you're not emotionally healthy, it is going to manifest as
Manifested.
physical symptoms. So that is what I wanted to do. That is the reason why I got into counseling and psychotherapy. It just so happened that my energy healing knowledge and experience also started to come in handy because energy healing also helps with releasing emotions that are stored in the body, to help with um, the healing of physical illnesses, even life's challenges that we experience in day to day life, relationship challenges, financial challenges, all that comes as a result of unresolved emotional issues that is just stuck inside. So, energy healing, counseling, coaching, everything helps to release that. And you feel liberated. It's like internal transformation so that your external environment is harmonious and peaceful and is the way that you want it to be.
Yeah. So I'm also a doctor, and whenever even I see a patient, we have been trained to take a very good history.
Yeah.
But when you come to, actually practice clinically, and I'm a gum surgeon, so when
Hmm.
we surgeons look at the patient, most of the times we look at the tissue and
Yeah.
immediately we know what is the treatment. But we need to actually dive into the link of why the tissue has become
Yes.
this way. So this is what you
Exactly.
are talking about, right? So
Yes. Yes.
addressing the cause, because treating
Yeah.
the cause is important and
Yes.
not the
Yes.
symptom.
Not the symptom. Address the root cause of the problem.
Definitely, yes. And that has brought you to uh, a, a field where you are actually looking at the root cause of what people are dealing with in their lives,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
So now, when, like you said, you had a relationship setback in your younger days and which
Yeah.
changed your way, your career
Yeah.
path.
Yeah.
Now that you are on this career, on this track, and you have come from a very practical field, okay,
Yeah.
like medical field where we are all into do's,
Yeah.
to a field where you wait on and try to have an insight. How has it
Yes.
helped you as a person?
It honestly has been very life changing for me. Before I got into the field of counseling and psychotherapy, like you said, I was a very practical person, and I was always quick to sweep my emotions under the rug.
True.
I would never address that. In our Indian community, as such, I feel emotions are not given a lot of importance. But um, in saying that, we are also becoming aware of the importance of addressing emotional issues. But from where I come from, it is always about being in our masculine energy. That means just constantly do. There is no time to take a break, to look within, address that, and then move forward. It's like just sweep everything under the rug. And what is the next thing I can do to get out of this situation?
And to focus
And
on
when
a
I
result and an outcome, to always be
exactly,
focused
yeah, yeah,
on a result.
exactly. So there was no uh, guidance on how to just be with your emotions, understand why that is coming up, what exactly are you feeling, and learn how to regulate that emotion. That was something that I was not taught. And I think none of my friends, at least in my environment, nobody was taught how to regulate their emotions. It's all about studies, get your, score good grades. Everything was to do with your career advancement. That is all that was important at that point. So when I got into counseling and psychotherapy, it was extremely challenging for me because it involved a lot of time and energy into looking at ourselves, into understanding, going close to our emotions, and that is so uncomfortable when you're not used to it. It was very exhausting. The first 6 months I struggled during my master's degree. But you have to persevere because you've taken up such a big course. You'll have assessments. All our assessments were based on that, self reflections and things like that. But thanks to that, I was able to work on myself and understand why my relationships in the past had failed.
Yeah.
It gave me a lot of insights into things like my attachment style, into understanding the traits that my parents have, how I am mirroring those within my relationships, why I am mirroring those in my relationships. So it was very revealing for me, that course. And I was able to apply all of those things in my life
In your life.
and actually work on my relationship, with my current husband. I honestly, at one point, I thought I'll not get married to anyone. Like, I wouldn't find anyone who is meant for me, But I did. I mean, even that relationship came with its own challenges. But I had decided that, okay, I have learned all of these things. I have gained so much knowledge, from my education as a counselor. It's time I put that to use, you know. So that is how I started to work on myself. And that is the way I brought out some sort of transformation in my own relationship with my husband, I was able to use those teachings to regulate my emotions, to understand where those strong emotions are coming from, what are the beliefs behind those emotions. It's all constant inner work. So that is how, like, I learned, I became comfortable with just being with my emotions and allowing that space, that I was not used to earlier when I was practicing as a doctor. It was a complete 180 degree for me.
True.
So I think for my relationship as such, and for my own personal growth and transformation, doing counseling and working as an energy healer has been extremely rewarding.
Especially in when we are trained as doctors, even though we are dealing with human beings, we completely forget the part of the emotional side
Yes.
or the emotional
Yes.
effects that a human being can have on their body, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
especially because when we are the doctors who are treating patients, often we don't look into our own emotions too. We constantly
Yes.
sweep them under the rug. We are not, even if we feel bad, we are not really ready to address, and because we know we have to complete our portion, we have to,
Yeah.
appear for the exam, we need to get the
Exams.
marks right. And even when you get your marks and you get your degree, even then when things are not, going right, is
Yeah.
when it clicks. So I think that is what has happened to you, and kudos to you
Yeah.
that you actually, tried to apply what you are learning in your life,
Yeah.
and you saw a shift. That is
Yeah.
amazing, right?
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go to the next question that I have. So right now you are practicing as a counselor, right?
Yeah.
So,
Counselor, spiritual coach, and energy healer.
and the
All
Reiki
three
master,
together. Yeah.
Reiki master too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is your client base like? What is your niche like? What are your clients'
So
avatar?
I am at the moment working with women who experience a lot of anxiety within their own relationships, um, and to help them release shame and to navigate the pain of abandonment. You know, those who have been abandoned in the past have attracted toxic relationships. So I help them communicate their needs in their present relationships effectively, help them manage conflicts with composure and with compassion so that they can create a connection with their partners and spouse that is based on love, trust, and respect.
Okay. So
Yeah.
what is the major lag that you see in this woman? What is the thing which you need to always constantly address and work on for them? Mostly, like the most common thing.
Emotional regulation. Regulation is so important because everything starts with that. If you want to break the cycle of anxiety or anything, even a conflict, like when you get into an argument, if there is no room for emotional regulation, you're going to get stuck in that cycle of blaming each other
Okay.
for whatever reason that the fight started, you know. So, if one of us does not make an attempt to regulate our emotions and to calm ourselves down so that we can address whatever has happened, you know, in a calm and composed manner, you're going to get stuck there. So, I feel emotional regulation is something that people really have to work on. It's so important.
So then the emotional regulation part is what you concentrate on. So you are dealing with
Yeah,
women who are into relationships.
yeah.
I just want to bring you a step back where I
Okay.
stand is
Mm.
trying to get into a relationship,
Yeah,
trying to attract a relationship. So
yeah.
yes, what is your advice to, my kind of women who
Yeah.
are ready to get into one, but what do we search, what do we look for when we are trying to get into
Okay. So, one of the most common things that we all do as women is have a list of, I want
checklist?
my guy to be like this.
Yeah.
And you know, you'll have a you'll have a checkbox around it, you know, has to be kind, compassionate, loving, respectful, and whatever other things, emotionally available, whatever it is.
Okay.
So I feel that making that list is a very good thing
Hmm.
because that is one way you can start to identify if you are there for yourself in that manner. Are you compassionate to yourself? Are you respecting yourself? Do you trust yourself? Are you kind to yourself? So, even when you are looking for a potential mate, you have to start working on yourself. You have to learn how you are handling conflicts in your maybe relationship with your parents, with your friends, with your colleagues at work. Every conflict that you experience in your life is an invitation for you to start working on yourself, is to start regulating yourself. When you start to identify these conflicts,
Hmm.
and you can start identifying your own behavioral patterns. How do I react to conflicts in my life? So, when you know you're going to react to conflicts in that manner, you know you're going to take that same thing into your relationship
Okay.
with your future husband. Okay, so when you start working on yourself now itself, imagine the amount of stress and anxiety you're going to save yourself and your partner or your spouse in the future. You know, you'll already have that tool to handle the conflict with compassion and composure. When you start to address all these things, when you learn how to be there for yourself, when you learn how to be compassionate to yourself, kind to yourself, trust yourself, you can actually show up and be all those things to your partner. So tomorrow, if your spouse is going to, get angry with you, and just lose his mind, okay, and start yelling, and you know how to manage your emotions at that point,
Hmm.
you can approach him in a calm manner and ask him what exactly is happening for him at that point.
So you mean to say the list that we make for the person we want, that
Yeah.
list should first be us.
Yes.
So that the checklist, the tick boxes,
Yes.
all of it, the qualities, first it
Yeah.
should, we should be that, and then we
Yeah.
will
Yes.
then we will get
Exactly.
the person we
Yeah,
want.
definitely.
Yeah.
Because through this list, you are learning to create a secure attachment with yourself. You're learning to be secure and safe within your own body. What
Yeah.
happens when we are raised? We are naturally wired to adapt to our surroundings. So no matter what your environment has been like, you will always try to fit in
Fit into.
to your family or school friends, or with your school teachers, whoever it is, your peers. So we all have a tendency to start pleasing the people we are around.
True.
It's wired within us. It is like a survival thing. So when we are always in that people pleasing mode, you are not going to address your own needs. You're always going to be overly available for others, to please others, to make others happy. So that is you have to start breaking that cycle. You have to break.
Okay. So the people pleasing thing should be turned into self alignment thing, a self.
Yeah, exactly. Learn how to set boundaries for yourself, healthy boundaries. Learn how to recognize your own needs
So then
so that you can meet that.
yeah. So I also want to ask you that how we have brought up is trying to please people, trying to fit in, trying to, get along with.
Hmm.
And now when now we understand that setting boundaries is something very important. Okay, sometimes things could exploit us in different ways.
Yeah.
So how do we, but if there is somebody who is important to me in my life, and that person it is new to him or her that I am setting a boundary. So how do we
Yeah.
communicate it to them? How do we express?
Okay. So you can do that from a place of compassion also.
Okay.
You can say to them that, okay, this is something that is important for me, which is why I need some time to myself at the moment. It has nothing to do with you. This is something I am doing for myself. So if I'm able to do this, I will be in a better mind space to come and spend time with you, or to enjoy with you, or whatever it is that they are expecting of you. So when you show to them that you taking your space will be beneficial to them at some point, they will definitely understand. It's always what's in it for me, you remember?
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that.
So we can actually set a boundary and better the relationship we already have, right?
Yes.
Because already when we are not, maintaining each other's boundaries,
Yeah.
we are somewhere exploiting our emotions or our feelings or
Yeah.
maybe even our efforts. But
Yeah.
when we set a boundary, we are into a healthy relationship,
Yes,
or
exactly.
mutually healthy relationship.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
You learn to respect your boundaries, you will also respect other people's boundaries, and they will recognize that.
Also, I want to ask you that we are still talking about women finding love. So, many a times we women have grown up watching Disney movies, fairy
Yeah.
tale stuff.
Yeah.
So, how do you put some light on it? That how much can we expect on the magic stuff in our life? the
The
magic.
movie
Yeah,
romantic
yeah.
side
So
of
everybody
things.
wants that, and if somebody's saying that I do not want it, especially a girl, I don't think so.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
would like it, but
Everybody wants.
yeah. So how do we, how much can we expect and how much can we settle on for that?
Okay, so movies and things like that, they only show the initial part
Yeah, yeah,
of, finding somebody. They don't show what's going to happen after that.
yeah.
Because we all think that our life and our relationship is going to get stuck in that honeymoon phase. That is not what it is. I'm sorry to break it to everybody, but that is not what it is.
Yeah. So it is always going to, grow into a phase which is beyond the honeymoon phase where you have
Yeah,
to, adapt to each other and live with each other, hopefully in a healthy way, right?
yeah, exactly. So it is like in the initial phase, no, it's all honeymoon, it's all rosy, and you're
Yeah.
getting to know each other. You always want to be each other. Then there will come a point where you start getting comfortable with each other. That is the point when we feel that person is taking advantage of me, is not there for me all the time like he used to be. And it starts to create issues within ourselves only. Okay. And then we start expecting them to be there for us all of the time. Even we as women, we get comfortable with the other person, right? So when you get comfortable in that relationship, you're going to feel like you're taking advantage. The other person is taking advantage of you, or you are taking
Good.
the other person for granted. That's the normal phase. You're getting comfortable with each other.
Okay.
Then after that comes the power struggle. Who is more authoritative in this relationship? So it is like that is when the conflicts begin. But that is uh, a phase where you want to be heard in the relationship. Okay,
So I would
that
just,
is when
yeah,
that is when that emotional regulation and all that you have worked on before, if you have worked on it before, will come in handy at that point.
will help you out.
Because it's very important, because when we are not regulated, our frontal brain, that's important for rational thinking
Hmm.
and executive planning, functioning, that portion of our brain shuts down when we are having an argument.
Okay.
We feel like our survival is threatened at that point. We feel uncomfortable and we feel all this fear and insecurity and everything starting to bubble up. So we cannot think clearly at that point, which is why you have to take a breath, breathe out 3, 4, 10 times, how many ever times, to calm down your system. For some people, breathing works. For some people, maybe you want to paint something at that point. For some people, let's go out for a run or something to cool off. But do something to regulate yourself.
So basically,
At that.
whenever you are into a relationship or you are having an argument or any clash, it should not be dealt from a survival mindset, but a thriving
Exactly.
mindset,
Exactly.
right?
So you approach it with compassion,
Yeah,
with love
yeah.
for
So
yourself and the other person.
yeah. So what are your top fives to do before getting into relationship or looking out for relationship? What kind of work you want me to do or somebody like me to do on myself?
Okay. So emotional regulation is definitely one thing. And I spoke before about identifying your own behaviors
Yeah.
when it comes to conflicts, especially understanding your own behaviors. Identify your own mindset when it comes to relationship. What is it that you are going? What are the expectations that you are taking into this relationship? And where are those expectations coming from? We all have limiting beliefs. So these expectations could be limiting beliefs, and when those expectations are not met, you're going to feel like you're not going to feel good about it in the relationship. So I feel mindset work is something also that's important,
That is important. Yeah.
Yeah. And fourth thing is Inner child healing, very important. Okay, inner child healing will come when you understand what your attachment style is with your caregivers, because that will help you identify uh, how um, how you need to show up for yourself. Okay, inner child healing definitely is one fourth thing. And fifth thing is, it is a bit extreme, but shadow work. Shadow work is important.
So just
Shadow work,
can we recap the 5 things?
yeah. So emotional regulation,
Yeah, emotional regulation,
yeah. What is the second thing I said?
mindset.
Mindset work.
Hmm.
Okay. Third was, I think fourth was inner child healing. Fifth was shadow work.
Yeah.
I cannot remember the third point.
Third was mindset, healing, emotional. We skipped on to something. Okay, then four steps. It's okay.
Yeah.
So
So,
yeah.
yeah, so shadow work is also important. That is the practice where you start identifying things that you deny, okay, in yourself. Emotions that you are not ready to acknowledge. Emotions like anger, jealousy, envy, all of these things, shame. These are all very unpleasant and very strong emotions that sometimes we find hard to recognize or that we don't want to recognize. So when you start addressing these emotions and understand where they are coming from and approach it with compassion for yourself, you start accepting yourself for who you are.
Okay.
These
Now,
are some things I even teach my clients.
okay.
These are the main things that we work on:
I think
self-regulation, mindfulness, inner child healing, and shadow work. Four
so
things,
four
very
things.
important.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we're going to talk about the inner child healing and the shadow work in our episode ahead. Next question is, there are so many people now with shadi.com and
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask you about dating apps or matrimony and what is your
Mm.
view on it, because you're dealing with women who have gotten married, and so how do
Yeah.
we people like me approach dating app? Because when I talk about me personally, I am not really a person who can, really search somebody online and
Yeah.
get tuned
Yeah.
to him. So yeah, so tell me about what is your view?
About dating apps and matrimonial sites.
I think both of them are pretty
Okay.
similar. Not much before.
Yeah. So I'm a little old school. I don't like dating apps and I don't even like matrimonial sites. I honestly I find it a waste of time because I feel to actually attune somebody, you need to meet them. So I
Yeah.
feel meeting people through common friends or meeting people at your place of work or anywhere, maybe your community club where you go, play a sport or something like that. When you meet people, you get an idea of who they are. I mean, I'm sure there are many people out there who actually find good people on dating apps or matrimonial websites. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I'm just saying that I am not very comfortable with that. But I do have a very close friend of mine here in Australia. She actually found her husband through a dating app. So it works well for some people when you know what you're looking for.
Yeah. And
When
again,
you
we can
know that
apply,
you want some. Hmm?
yeah, we can apply our 4 steps to
Exactly.
daily
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. And you can use your gut feeling also at that point. Your intuition is always going to guide you.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
use your intuition to identify who's giving you good vibes, who's not. So that
So
way you
now,
can use.
yeah. So now when we have talked about dating apps. Now, when we meet a person, how much of his career, how much of his finances should we take into consideration? Because money is really very sensitive topic
Yeah.
for people getting married these days. So how can we, handle it when we are going for a relationship?
Okay, so finances, like you mean both
Both. Yeah.
both finances. Okay. So money as such, I have noticed is a very sensitive
Yeah.
topic of conversation, and I think it's about time that we stop making it such a big deal, like money is important in today's day and age, right? So having healthy conversations about how y'all are going to manage your finances, how much y'all are going to keep for personal expenses, how much y'all are going to put in towards investments, how much y'all want for, future savings, uh, and things like that is important. It doesn't matter how much I'm earning, how much you are earning. It's a household income now. There is no my money, your money. At least in my relationship with my husband, we have healthy conversations about finances. And there is no such thing as this is my money, so I am going to be spending this much, and that is your money. You do whatever you want with that. It's not like that.
That was my
Whatever
next
money is
question.
coming
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, that was my next question, that how you should decide on how much I bring in into the relationship or in the family, and how much is he bringing in. So how do we, actually cater to it?
It doesn't matter actually, because if you're doing a job or if you have your own business, you're going to have a certain net worth, like some amount per month or per week or per year is going to keep flowing into the house. So you are not limited by a certain number at that point. It's going to keep growing. It's just about discussing, okay, we as a household, now we are together in this house. Together, this much money is coming into the house. So, okay, from that, what you can discuss about the things that you guys are interested in doing, like you will have your own set of interests. Your future mate will have certain set of interests.
Yeah.
So you can obviously set some money aside for that, for pursuing your own goals. There will be certain things that you all want to do together, like taking trips, holidays and things like that, or maybe watching movies together, or going doing some sort of activity together. So for that, you all can pool in some money. Then you all have to have discussions about future investments also, where what sort of areas you all want to invest money in, for long-term goals and things like that. So that is one of the things. So I think seeing it as individual earnings is that is when that ego starts getting in the way, I am earning this much, so I should be entitled to so much money for personal savings. No, it's not like that. You all are together in one house now. Have your own personal saving, personal expenses. I'm not saying everything you all have to spend on each other. No, decide on how much you want to keep for your own personal expenses, and that
Even
that
that.
is a conversation you all have to have.
So you
It
need
is
to
very important.
communicate and decide on together to how do
Yeah,
we
how
go.
that money is going to be handled in the house.
Yeah. So we have talked about career and finances. Now let's go a layer deeper into how does somebody's upbringing or their family culture or their, familial mindset reflect
Yeah,
into the relationship that we'll have with them.
yeah. So this again goes back to our 4 steps
Yeah.
of self-work,
Yeah.
When you are happy and when you are content within your own skin and within your own body, and when you have accepted yourself and your surroundings for what it is, you are going to have the strength to accept your future mate and their family for whoever they are. You cannot change anybody. Yeah, if that is getting in the way of your own mental peace, you need to communicate that.
Okay. Right.
Okay, that is where when you have done this much work on yourself, you will be in a space where you are comfortable. in communicating your needs from a place of compassion and understanding for them. You understand where they are coming from. You're not holding it against them, but you're still drawing a boundary. Okay, this is who you are, but I don't resonate with that. I'm not comfortable with that. So I'm going to set a boundary here.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it is about, again, goes back to something like inner child and how do we
Definitely.
how do we handle our
Yeah.
relationships? Because we have certain pattern that we have developed in us when we are
Yeah.
living with our family. So it
Yeah.
is very important to self-reflect and address the pattern and to make certain changes if at all required, right? That is what.
Yes, very, very important. And when you do inner child healing, it's important to understand that everyone, 100% of the population on this planet, we are all operating from that place of woundedness. So the reason we have conflicts and arguments and disagreements is because our wounded inner child is asking for some sort of connection. So when you start looking at everyone as a 3-year-old wounded person, 3-year-old wounded baby, how will you treat a 3-year-old baby when they are in need of love and affection and they're throwing a tantrum? How are you going to approach them? With compassion and with patience and with love. And you will be able to do that when you know how to be within yourself, regulate your emotions. That way you can show up for literally anybody. You can handle any conflict in your family.
Okay. So now I'm turning the floor towards me a little bit. So, like you said, that you had a lot of anxiety when your
Hmm.
relationships were considered. Even I face the same thing. I have been dealing with anxiety and I'm working on it actually. And but still I do have it,
Yeah.
whenever I approach getting into a relationship or maybe there is somebody who's interested in me, but I'm very anxious to even interact and I overthink it and time and again try to, uh, assure something out of it or make sense out of it. So how do
Yeah.
you go about how can you put some light on how to deal with the anxiety? Because I think most of my friends have it too,
Yeah.
way we have been, grown up, we have been brought up.
Yeah.
It has been there in our system. So how do we deal with it?
Okay. So you want to know how to manage that anxiety when it
Yeah.
comes to
Yeah.
meeting.
Meeting a person or getting into a relationship itself, even when we
Yeah.
want to get into a relationship, when the actual point comes in our life, when we are meeting a guy or, we are meeting somebody new, there are a lot of thoughts that we have, and we are just there is a cloud in your mind that
Yeah.
how do you go around with this? So how do you manage it?
Okay. So what you said right now is exactly what you need to notice, your thoughts. What are the thoughts that are coming into your mind? Because our thoughts, feelings, and actions, they're all connected,
Yeah.
right? So when there is a situation that comes up, like, okay, you have to meet a person, that is the situation, which is the trigger for your anxiety. So all these negative, unwanted thoughts will keep coming into your mind. Notice that. What are those thoughts?
Okay.
And identify within these thoughts will be your beliefs. What is it that you're believing about that situation? What meaning are you giving to that situation?
Okay.
Okay, it's through by noticing your thoughts, you will be able to begin breaking that anxiety pattern. When you understand, okay, these are the thoughts that are contributing to the way I feel right now, to the anxiety that I'm feeling right now. You can then start backtracking where those thoughts are coming from. Because most of the time, these negative thoughts are a result of what we have heard in our environment, maybe through movies, yeah, or else we must have heard something within our family, either in school, from school teachers or friends, some sort of extended relations. Somewhere externally we have heard these, and that has sort of stuck with us, and that they come in the form of negative thoughts. So either then you will be overly critical of yourself, or you will start getting judgmental about yourself. So it's a chain reaction, you know. So to break that feeling of anxiety, notice your thoughts. Mindfulness practice
So,
helps with that.
yeah, even when I take a step ahead, or even when I am trying to be with someone, when I start a friendship, there is a lot of anxious pattern into that bond too.
Yeah.
So, how can we actually, lessen down some, modulate that anxiety?
Yeah. So again, mindfulness.
Yeah.
Mindfulness is very, very effective for anxiety management.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that goes beyond that, deeper inner work that is involved to actually stop. You can't stop feeling anxious, but you can manage it to a very good extent with inner work. Okay, when you know your triggers, when you know how to regulate yourself, when you know that, okay, when you know how to handle and show up for your inner child, you know, when you're accustomed to that process, it becomes easy to manage the anxiety. But starting with mindfulness and emotional regulation, I think that is somewhere where everyone can start regulating their anxiety very effectively.
So my next question is from all of my friends, that which is, why do women in general uh, lack love in their life in spite of being ready to, be in love? So I feel that we women are so much, more focused on the romantic part of our life. But why
Yeah.
is it that we fail, or we often are disappointed in it?
Okay. So I don't think we lack love, because as women, we are naturally wired for uh, nurturing and caring for people, you know. And when you say we fail in love, I don't think we fail in love. It's just we we have hard time loving ourselves.
This is very important.
Yeah. We have a hard time loving ourselves. That is the reason we are not. I think on some level we find it difficult to attract somebody who is ready to love us that much, because we don't love ourselves. That is the reason behind that. We in our Indian community, we have seen our own mothers and the women in our family giving themselves so much in the relationship. You know, we have seen them sacrificing so much and always being there for others. They don't take a minute for themselves. So it is like, for us, it is like fine tuned. Ki, okay, when we are in a relationship, we have to overgive,
Everyone.
and we have to be there for everybody. We are like everybody's lifeboat. We have to hold the this thing family together. It's so pressurizing. No, it is not like that. You don't have to take in all the pressure and think that you have to always be the one to give. You are giving, which means you also have to make time for receiving.
So how do you start receiving? What is the switch to start receiving?
So with that, you first start identifying what is stopping you from prioritizing yourself.
Okay.
Why is it so hard for you to prioritize yourself? What what will happen if you start prioritizing yourself? Then when you answer those questions, you will understand all your limiting beliefs starting to come into one place. Maybe it is okay, I don't think people are going to understand because it just doesn't feel right. Something like that, you know, you will start understanding what is the reason behind that is stopping you from showering yourself with that much love and affection that you are ready to give somebody else.
So we need to start taking space for ourselves and nurture
Yeah,
ourselves to fill our own.
exactly.
Yeah.
Love yourself so that you can invite that kind of love into your life, you know?
So sometimes whenever I used to read like self-love and love yourself, I used to not even, get the picture of how to do it. So
Yeah,
for me, it was putting myself the first in my priority list. So
yeah,
even when if
exactly.
I am at some place where I'm not feeling okay, and there is no practical reason that I can list down on why I am not, feeling okay here, just a gut feeling.
Mm,
But I have started listening to it. So
that's very good.
it's okay. I'll leave it. This is not okay with me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to always have a rational
Multiple, yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
It's overrated rational thinking. You need to go with your gut.
Yeah, that is okay, right? Also, I have observed that some of my friends, or maybe me, even me, we constantly get into the same kind of relationships, right?
Mm,
So sometimes there is a friend of mine who is constantly cheated on by the guy she's going out with. Or
right,
sometimes there is a friend of mine, she finds good guys, but it doesn't, um, she doesn't get married to the person she's with. She has to,
right,
constantly, it doesn't, culminate into something. So
right,
why is this pattern that we have?
right. So, when I was actually getting trained to be a counselor, we had this whole semester that was all about relationship counseling.
Okay.
Okay. So, in that, I came across a very interesting therapeutic modality called imago relationship therapy.
Okay.
Okay. So, in imago relationship therapy, there is one exercise that we were taught, about identifying the traits of our parents, of our traits of our father, traits of our mother. It was, I can't remember what it is, but I think after the podcast gets over, I can maybe send that link to you and you can attach it in the file below so people can see. So, through that exercise, we identify that our future mate is going to have all of the negative characteristics
Okay.
that we have seen in our parents.
Okay.
Okay. So that is the reason we always attract similar partners. We always attract mates who have some similar characteristics to our parents.
Okay.
Okay. So when you have always been in an environment where your emotions have been neglected, where you have been made to feel like you are not worth, where you're unworthy, where you are made to work for appreciation, where you have not been appreciated at all. You sort of get used to that kind of environment, you know. That is your survival mindset.
Okay.
Okay, you get accustomed to that sort of environment. And so when you start going out into the world, it's not conscious, it's subconscious. Okay, you start looking for that kind of
Similar.
environment
Yeah.
because you
Similar
know you
traits.
can survive in that environment.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is one of the reasons why we attract toxic relationships. You know, where we are abandoned, where we feel betrayed, where we feel like we are not the number one priority for the other person, because we have never felt that way in our own home. We don't feel emotionally safe in our home, so we find the relationships where we won't feel emotionally safe. It is all subconscious.
So
And constantly attracting toxic relationships is also an invitation for you to start working on yourself.
what do you
It is universe's way of telling that I'm giving you so many clues, to start working on yourself, to start prioritizing yourself. So you need to start doing that now. Start doing that, you will guaranteed break that pattern.
Okay. So the idea is to the thing is that we will always attract the same kind of emotional pattern that we are living in right now. So if you
Yeah,
want to solve something, if you want to break the pattern or get out into from your type which is not suiting you. You have to
Yeah,
deal with your emotional state at present
exactly.
and get it to a better emotional state, so that in
Yeah,
future, whichever partner you find or whoever partner you find is,
yeah,
will have a good emotional connect with you,
exactly,
emotional
exactly.
energy. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're learning to show up for yourself. So that way you will develop a lot of respect and trust for yourself. So you are going to attract people who are going to respect you, because your vibration is so high at that point.
Yeah.
When you're vibrating love, trust, respect, compassion, kindness for yourself and for others as well,
So
you are
how,
but naturally
yeah.
going to attract.
So how you treat yourself is exactly how the people you attract in your life treat you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
So that is why you have to better your own
Yeah. That is
treatment
why there's so much
pattern.
emphasis on self-love, self-compassion. It's just, I feel people need more guidance with that. That's it.
Yeah.
It's so easy to relapse into our old patterns when you're on this path of self-healing. It's easy to relapse. So you need someone to stay accountable, for you, someone who can guide you on this process. It's very important to find that kind of support system.
Also, I wanted to ask you about, like I said, there are some of my friends whose relationship, go for a toss time and again. But there are some who have found their love and they are living in, like living together, or maybe have gotten married. But the kind of bond which they had during their courtship or maybe the initial honeymoon phase has now taken a different turn, and now it's
Yeah,
like, it's not going good, but still they are, somehow managing. So what is your view on the attachment styles? Like, what kind
right.
of attachment style should we have with our partner, and how does it progress or modify according to your
Okay.
every stage of life? Yeah.
Yeah. So, and everything is always changing. Nothing is ever constant. Okay. So,
Yeah.
similarly, even your relationship, like it was in the beginning, it is not going to stay the same. There are going to be challenges within the relationships. There are going to be times when there are no challenges. Everything is going so smooth and you're just very comfortable with each other. There will be times when there's so much of ecstasy and excitement in the relationship. There's always going to be ups and downs. But then again, creating a secure attachment within yourself will help you create a secure attachment with your partner or your spouse. Because we are always looking for the other person to always show up for us. But if we don't know how to show up for ourselves, that's not going to happen. We have to meet our own needs. There is this intense pressure in our society to make our relationship everything in our life. Okay, it's like our life has to revolve around that relationship. That is not the case. And I don't, I think that is too pressurizing for both the parties. Like, I have to always be there for my spouse. Your spouse will feel, oh, I have to always be there for my spouse. So it is like when I was going for therapy, something that my therapist told me really stuck to me. She said, treat your relationships as a bodega deli. Bodega Delhi is one of the delis in US, I think, where they have like a lot of different counters of different cuisines. So, like that, your relationships also have to be like that. You have your friends for maybe some emotional, intimate support that you want. Your relationship with your spouse will be something else. So, when you start identifying which relationship is serving what
What?
for you in your life, things become very simple and it takes the pressure off your relationship, with your spouse and partner. So that way you can create more security within that for each other. There was a time when I used to feel uh, I would wonder why my husband is not into spirituality and things like that. It
Yeah.
would be so much fun to talk to somebody at home about it. But no, I mean he's not like that. He likes his own thing. He's not a spiritual guy. He's very logical, very analytical, and
Okay.
even though he doesn't agree with whatever I'm doing, he respects it. And that's all I need from him. I don't need him to sit and discuss anything with him. I have my own set of friends for that. So that way I am not relying on him for every single thing. So create a support system for yourself, create security for yourself and safety for yourself within yourself by doing all of the 4 things that we talked about earlier.
So if
Your
we are
relationship
secure
will
with
be.
our own self, is how your relationship will start flowing and becoming
Yeah,
secure.
exactly. You will grow with each other. There are going to be conflicts even when you're working for yourself. It's not like, oh, I'm working, so there will be no conflicts. Not like that. You will just have better tools in place to help you navigate that conflicts. That's it.
So now when we have talked about relationships and finding the one, I also want to ask you about how do we deal with people related to your significant other.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
in my past, like I have learned that the person you are with, of course, what they think and that their emotions are important, but many a times the people that surround them influence their emotions or opinions. So how
Yeah.
do we adapt to them?
Okay. So you mean like just our significant others, family members, you mean?
Family members, yeah, and their friends, the closest friends they spend time with.
Okay. When you say adapt to them, what exactly do you mean? Like, I want more context so that I can answer
So
the
that,
question
that's
properly.
so when I will get married, I will have to be, become one from their family, right? One of them. So then I will have to uh, adapt to how things work in their house, right?
Yeah.
Or how they think maybe about certain things. So how do we go about it?
Okay. Okay. So, I am of the opinion that you don't have to give up your own individuality just because you are becoming a part of someone else's family. There is no need for you to adapt to their mindset because your journey is different, their journey is different.
Okay.
So, it is not about becoming one with them, it is becoming a part of their family.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's all about maintaining your own individuality over there in that space, and at the same time showing respect for their mindset and their uh, culture, traditions, whatever it is. Even if you don't agree with it, it's fine, but you will be in a space to respect that. Respect is respecting their views and points and everything is okay. You don't have to like start following the same thing as they do, is my opinion.
So also put some light on having a nuclear family. Like most of
Yeah.
my cousins now, if you see, they're living abroad and they're living with their significant other. But my friends who have gotten married and who are staying back in India, they are living with their parents. They're living together. So what is the exact challenges and you know some benefits that you get in each case?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So joint and nuclear family both have their own pros and cons. Um, I have been in a nuclear family all my life. Like I was raised with just my parents around. I have never lived with my grandparents for more than 2 or 3 months at a stretch, and they would come to visit us for a while, and then they would go back. So even now, I am living with my husband in Australia, and we're not. Our parents are overseas.
Hmm.
So I have been in a nuclear family for all of my life. So I can shed a lot of light on the pros and cons of living in a nuclear family at this moment. Which the cons of being in a nuclear family will be the pros for joint family. We
Okay.
can take it like that. So some of the things that I have noticed is one big thing is when we have conflicts with each other, there is no third mediator, to resolve the situation. Okay, so when there is when there's a third person, when there's an adult around, like a mother or a father or a grandparent or somebody, someone's going to be able to sit there and talk us through that conflict rather than just going in two different directions. I think that's one of the reasons why I've made it a point to start regulating myself, because I knew that it's just the two of us and we are there for each other and we need to learn how to navigate the conflicts. So I think along with doing your own self work, having another member of the family being there for you during your difficult time becomes important. That is something that nuclear families don't have, like an extended support system,
Okay.
in the house itself. Um, Second thing is with nuclear family, when you're just you and your husband, you guys have the freedom to, go wherever you want, or,
Yeah.
spend how much ever time you want outside. You have your own privacy and things like that. Joint family, I think that you automatically start becoming answerable to somebody, I'm not saying that joint families are bad. For any listeners out there who have joint families, not a bad thing. You all would know better what are the pros and cons of that. But I feel that having our own space and having our own uh, being responsible for ourselves, we are not constantly under somebody else's care and protection throughout the time. So that way we are able to find our own independence and our own feet out in the world. It's what I think. They're my opinions. So these two are the main things that I feel are benefit and the cons of uh, uh, nuclear nuclear family. Joint family, definitely support system is a big thing. Like you need when you're, especially when you're newly married and things like that, having a support system around you becomes very, very important.
Okay. So both of them have their plus and minuses.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely, definitely.
Yeah. One of the most important thing that we come to is after you get married. Now, when a couple is deciding on having a child.
Yeah,
So how do you navigate that idea? Because in today's times, there is a lot of things that we have to, look into
yeah,
from emotional point of view, from your mindset, from your finances, from who is going to, be available for what amount of time. So
yeah,
how do you prepare yourself mentally
yeah.
first to, take that decision?
Okay, to plan your family.
Plan a child, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, mental preparation will come through honest and open conversation
Yeah.
with your significant other. Okay, along with identifying how much time who is going to be giving to the care of the baby and the raising of the baby. I think talking about what values you want to pass on
Hmm.
to your kid, that is also very important, because there will be certain things that you have seen while growing up that doesn't sit well with you, that you don't want to pass on. And if you have been doing your self work all of this time and you have understood your own patterns and your own limiting beliefs, and you know what hasn't been serving you, you will automatically know what you don't want to pass on uh, to your future
Child.
generations, yeah. So identifying and conversing about the values and beliefs that you want to give to them is one of the most important things. Second of all, children are going to need a lot of care and attention. As exhausting as it may seem, I think having a lot of patience with them is of utmost importance to create that secure attachment bond with them. So that is where your own emotional regulation comes into picture. Because there will be times when your kid is going to test your patience, and they are going to, I don't want to say drive you nuts, but they are going to test you in a lot of ways. They're going to be doing things that you don't agree with. They are going to grow up being, to be their own individual. Even kids have their own phases while growing up. So I think before having a child, working on our own nervous system regulation is very important, because that way you can show up for your child in a calm and composed manner and help them feel secure. You don't want to instill fear within them. I have seen that happening a lot, okay, with people around. I think in our Indian society, we have seen, at least in my schools, I have seen teachers resorting to physical violence, when it comes to disciplining children. And I don't agree with that. I would have maybe 5-6 years ago, had I not done my counseling course. But now that I know there are more
Cons to it.
compassionate and loving ways of approaching raising a child, I would definitely say work on your own nervous system regulation. Create a secure attachment with yourself. That's very important, because you have to be there for somebody else. Your child cannot grow up being scared of you. They have to know, whatever I do in this world, whether it's a mistake or whether it's a success, whatever decisions I make for myself, or whatever opinions I have, it will be well received by my parents. I will feel secure enough. I feel secure enough to go and share it with them without being made to feel like I'm a bad person, or that it is wrong for me to think this way. So that is important. Creating a secure attachment with them.
You have put it so rightly that even when I look back on my school days or my college days, the teachers then were so judgmental about us. And while we were still not adults, we were and the comments they made about us or whatever, whenever they said something in front of the whole class, it affected
Yeah.
a person who is not that mentally strong, or any young person who is yet to, become a mature adult. It can really affect
Yeah.
them.
Exactly.
Most of the teachers that I have seen, they don't even have a second thought before
Yeah.
saying
They
something
don't.
about someone,
Yeah.
which is very disappointing, actually.
Yeah, it is. And nowadays there's a lot of help available. I mean, at least here in Australia, there is parenting therapy. So when you are new parents,
Yeah.
going to go and get help, it's a new experience for you, and you are not going to have all of the knowledge that you need to raise a baby. You have to learn how to show up and meet its emotional requirements, the baby's emotion. So getting help, not just reading self-help books and books about parenting, but actually getting professional help is I think is very important nowadays. Our
And
parents did the best they can to
yeah,
raise us, but now we want to approach it in a different manner. So get that sort of appropriate help. It's very important, and it goes a very long way. You're doing it for your kid. So I think even counseling before you have a child, it's called prenatal counseling.
okay.
You go and talk to a professional, and get some support about how you can be there for your child when they are actually growing within you.
True.
And, learning how to regulate yourself, because you're going to have a lot of hormonal changes at that point. So how do you stay balanced? How do you show up for yourself? Surround yourself with supportive people. All of these things becomes very important when you're going to have a baby or when you're planning to have
Yeah,
family.
when you have explained this, I understand that how much of emotional and mental preparation you really have to do to go ahead and bring a child into this world, because
Yeah,
the kind
definitely.
of mindset we are in right now, it won't suffice,
No,
for the young
definitely
kid.
not.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
So also, now we talked about emotional and mental preparation. Now there is something which is postpartum depression.
yeah,
So all of my friends who are now planning for a baby or have had a baby, immediately after they have a baby, for a year or so, they seem to, I feel that they are a little bit low.
yeah,
Whenever I call them, I expect them to be very happy. They have had a baby and it's going to be very cool and nice, and but it is not so. So,
yeah.
what is postpartum depression, and put some light on it so that somebody like me who was, planning in the far in their future has
Yeah,
some idea.
yeah. So I'll just briefly address
Yeah.
it. So postpartum depression is something that is seen after you've delivered a baby for the next within the next 12 months, is like depressive symptoms only. Like you're not going to feel the need to connect with your baby. You're going to feel like the whole world is against you at that point. You don't feel like showing up for anything at that point. And this generally happens with those people who have had a history of some emotional issues, some sort of traumatic experience in their past.
Okay.
That has just brought out all those symptoms after the pregnancy. I mean, let's face it, you go through 9 months of having a baby within you. Your body goes through a lot of changes at that point. So feeling a little bit blue after your pregnancy is fine. You've gone through a lot of ups and downs at that point. What becomes important at that point is to ensure that you're surrounded by people who are going to support you and love you and shower you with that kind of appreciation and love that you need at that point. It's a big thing that you have done. You've pushed a person out of your body. It's an exhaustive process. Your body needs time to recover at that point. So if that is the reason I mentioned prenatal
Okay.
counseling. So when you go and speak to a counselor, you will automatically know whether this is a certain possibility for you or not. So you can prepare before itself. Talk to your professional. Your OBGYN also will know a lot about postpartum depression. So addressing all of these things before you get pregnant is important.
Okay. So almost we have discussed all the major lot of questions that I had and my friends had from you. Now I am turning the show towards me because I'm the
Okay.
host and I'm going to ask things from you, especially for me. So
Yeah.
I have, like I said, I have had a lot of anxiety issues in my relationships, and often or not, I have seen that maybe I expect a lot of things from my significant other, and I also try to put in a lot of efforts, but when they're not met equally, I am disappointed, and then I land up into a space of frustration. So, what is your advice for me?
For you to navigate
Yeah, my
the
relation.
anxiety.
Yeah.
Okay, at this point, I think I will pull out a tarot card for you.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Amazing. Yeah, that's really nice.
We'll get some guidance from
Yeah.
your spirit
Yeah.
guides to help you understand how to navigate
Yeah.
anxiety when it comes to relationships. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Let me just draw a card. Okay. So the card that I pulled out is Justice.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Archangel Raguel. I'm using the Angel Tarot deck. So something that stands out to me in this is to stand up for your own belief system. Okay, start identifying what your values and beliefs are. Okay, start to identify any limiting beliefs that are not serving you anymore.
Okay.
Okay, this will become very important to establish a foundation with your significant other, because you will have a clear mindset. You'll have you'll how you are going to show up within that relationship when you know what your values and beliefs are, and this will help you decide if that relationship is right for you or no. Okay. And that will help you then decide further about what sort of relationship that will be correct for you. If you want to attract someone who has who has similar values and beliefs as you do, so that way the anxiety that you feel, it'll start to diminish because you know someone is sharing the same values and beliefs as you do, and stand up for it. Don't apologize for the beliefs that you have, for the things that you value. Be absolutely unapologetic. Nobody needs to make you feel bad about the things that you believe in.
I
So
think
yeah, that
I try to fit in a lot. I do that. I try
uh,
to, maybe
yeah. So
fit
that
in.
is something um, that you need to start to shift.
Yeah.
You don't need to fit in anymore. You are your own individual person. You have your own strong belief system and values
True.
that you need to show up with.
Okay.
Okay.
And anything else any message that you would like to send through this podcast to women who need guide?
Yeah. So to all the women out there, you guys are totally worth it. You are absolutely worthy of love and affection, and don't ever think uh, that things are going to be difficult and that you're not worthy of receiving love and affection. You are the definition of love. You have so much feminine energy that is all about nurturing, caring, loving. You are the embodiment of love. Just turn that towards yourself. You start to respect yourself, love yourself, you will find that all around you. That's
Wow,
the
that's
message I want to give.
amazing, amazing message for all of my listeners. And thank you so much for being on the show. It
Thank
was
you for having
really,
me.
yeah, it was a delightful conversation, and it was something very much required. So
Yeah.
thanks
Yeah.
a lot.
Thank you for giving me the platform to share my message.
It was something we needed to hear, all of us, definitely. Also, anybody who wants to find Dr. Sneha, you can find her below in my show. I'm going to tag her and put in a link, right? You are going to send me
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
and I'll be putting in a link so that you can find her. So that is all for today. Thank you again for being here, and if at all we require you again to discuss
Definitely.
on any
Definitely.
topic, we are going to, call you back.
I'll be more than happy.
Yeah. Thank you so much.